Okay, good. So I'm going to speak briefly about the toxicity of the COVID vaccines, in particular of the mRNA vaccines, because these are now the predominantly used ones worldwide. They have two components. One is the messenger RNA, which contains the blueprint, in this case for the spike protein that occurs normally on the surface of the virus particles. And the idea is to sneak this messenger RNA into our own body cells in order to have them make the actual protein to which the immune response, the system then responds. Okay, good. The second component is the lipid nanoparticles, right? These lipids, fat-like molecules, they encase the messenger RNA, and they serve two purposes. One is to protect the messenger RNA while it is in transport, and secondly also to help it enter the body cells. Okay. Now, there are several different components, and one of them is so-called cationic or electrically positively charged lipid, is known to be quite toxic. That's actually a general property of these cationic lipids. They tend to, once they are inside a cell, to disrupt the mitochondrial respiration, the cell respiration, so that is the activity of a certain organelle inside our cell that's responsible for consuming oxygen for producing energy. Okay? If this activity is disrupted, then the oxygen is not reduced all the way to water, but instead to some intermediates, which are called reactive oxygen species. And these reactive oxygen species, as their name suggests, they can react with anything, including with DNA, so they can inflict damage on the DNA in our body cells. Now, that is actually something that also occurs with ionizing radiation. Right? If you apply gamma radiation or X-rays to a person, typically for the sake of treating cancer or lymphoma, something like that, then this is what happens inside a cell. The ionizing radiation will break up water into reactive species, including reactive oxygen species, and these will then in turn inflict damage on the DNA. This is how radiation works. Right? Radiation first splits water, and the reaction products then cause, in a chemical mechanism, damage to your DNA. Now, we have to assume that just as with radiation, there is a total dose limit, total lifetime dose limit that you can survive, that this also applies to these cationic lipids, which we find in the vaccines. And what that means is the total lifetime dose of these messenger RNA vaccines that you can tolerate before you die is limited. We don't know the exact amount because there are simply not enough experimental data, right? That's actually one of the great scandals of these vaccines, is that no proper toxicity studies have been carried out before these were rolled out and applied worldwide to the population. But in principle, we can be quite certain that the total dose of these vaccines that you can tolerate before you die is limited. Whether it's 10 shots or 20 shots or 8 shots, nobody knows. And it will be somewhat variable, just as with radiation it will be somewhat variable. There is certainly an extent of individual variation, but in principle everybody will have their own limit beyond which you cannot go. Okay? Now, in this context, it is interesting to note that both Moderna and Pfizer are now working on very substantial pipelines. They want to use this mRNA vaccine technology not just against COVID, but against just about anything, including against some viral diseases, which will be reactivated. Very many people actually carry those viruses in their body, but normally the immune system keeps them under the thumb. But if the immune system is weakened, this will be one effect of this cationic lipid toxicity. These viruses will break out again, and then we will be offered these mRNA shots to counter these virus infections. So, which means that you will actually accumulate this toxicity further. But because regardless of which particular antigen is being targeted, right, the delivery technology, these lipids will always be the same. at least in principle. So we will have we will be stuck with that problem. So this is really a technology designed to poison people. There's really no two ways about it. That is my considered opinion as a medical doctor, working in biochemistry, teaching pharmacology and toxicology. Okay, so this is my considered opinion on this topic.
Come ci insegnava lui Montagnier, malattie autoimmunitarie, ma soprattutto turbo-cancer. Io ne ho già visti una caterva. Ne ho visti e ti trovi di fronte a persone che dall'oggi al domani si trovano con tumori devastanti, ma non un tumore, a volte 2 tumori diversi, non metastasi, nella stessa persona. Io non ho mai visto cose di questo tipo, ci sarebbe da riscrivere i nuovi tipi di patologie perché quello che hanno fatto è veramente un criminale.
Oggi l'emergenza è il post-vaccino. Ci sono tantissimi casi di malattie di tutti i tipi, di malattie di quadri di patologia mai vista, che nessuno conosce. E questo perché questo siero che è stato fatto in un certo modo e quindi tutto quello che succede è spiegabile. Tutto quello che succede nelle persone ha una base diciamo chimica, farmacologica, si riesce a capire perché succedono le cose, si riesce a capire perché c'è un elevato tasso di tumori, perché quando viene iniettato dell'RNA messaggero non viene iniettato da solo, ma bisogna iniettare anche una sostanza che blocchi parte del sistema immunitario. Questo è necessario perché se io inietto dell'RNA messaggero a una persona, la persona la distrugge in una frazione di secondo. Allora io devo iniettare anche qualcosa che blocchi una parte del sistema immunitario. Questa parte è il sistema dell'interferon e questo sistema dell'interferon è quello che elimina le cellule mutanti, e elimina cioè le cellule che si trasformano, che anziché morire diventano cellule tumorali. Questo è probabilmente uno dei motivi per cui c'è un aumento del tasso di tumori. I ricercatori indipendenti avevano già previsto questa cosa e c'è anche un disordine profondo, profondissimo al sistema immunitario. Quindi gli effetti collaterali ci sono dichiarati dalla Pfizer, sono dichiarati dall'EMA, non possono essere negati, ma in realtà vengono negati prima di tutto dai medici. E i medici si ritrovano, come per quel che riguarda il Covid, davanti a una condizione di non conoscenza.
Il turbo-cancro è un nuovo tipo di espressione che viene usata in tutto il mondo. Un mio collega in Svezia ha coniato il termine in uno dei suoi articoli e si riferisce a ciò che stava osservando come patologo del seno che si occupa di un gran numero di tumori al seno durante i suoi molti anni di pratica. Ha notato le giovani donne che sviluppano il cancro dopo l'inizio delle inoculazioni. Si è accorto che questi tumori erano più aggressivi e si diffondevano più rapidamente. Quindi turbo-cancro significa un cancro che si sta comportando in modo più aggressivo rispetto a quanto la scienza abbia osservato riguardo al comportamento della maggior parte dei tumori, e questi tumori, a causa della disregolazione delle risposte immunitarie e della soppressione del sistema immunitario causate da questi vaccini genetici e così tanti altri meccanismi, questi tumori che normalmente sarebbero tenuti sotto controllo dall'organismo stanno improvvisamente crescendo molto rapidamente.
Dr. Ryan Cole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here with you.
Dr. Cole, in your opinion, you have been looking at the vaccines. What is the greatest threat, what is the greatest harm that you're seeing coming from this to people?
The most concerning thing is that we're continuing on doing something that doesn't work for something that doesn't exist. So the shots have never been reformulated. They were made to cover Wuhan. Wuhan is gone, Omicron's here. The shots are now all risk, no benefit. Traditionally, vaccines, even against coronavirus, has never worked. What we're seeing with this are severe adverse reactions. Everybody hears about myocarditis. What they don't hear is that a lipid nanoparticle plus a modified gene sequence is a nuclear bomb. And what we're finding is immune suppression. We're finding increase in cancer rates because of that immune suppression. We're finding reactivation of viruses. We're seeing deaths from this shot at a rate higher than any medical product ever used on humanity before. None of these are approved. We are literally doing the largest experiment on humanity ever done, not knowing the long-term outcomes. We have all-cause death higher now in those who have received these shots than those who didn't. So we know there are very bad signals from this experimental therapy. Putting this needle with this gene in their arm is nothing short of child abuse anywhere in the world. We do know that these kids, most have had COVID. You never give a vaccine to someone who's recovered from a disease. Scientifically illogical. So brain, heart, any organ, don't touch the children, it's abuse.
Was hast du für einen Eindruck? Explodiert da gerade was?
Ja, es gibt natürlich offizielle Statistiken und die zeigen deutlich, dass es die sogenannten beim Krebs, der Gesamtzahl der Krebserkrankungen, das sogenannte Hockeystick-Phänomen gibt. Jeder hat mal einen Hockeysticker gesehen, oder? Der ist gerade und dann unten diese Kette steigt so an und Krebserkrankungen sind so verlaufen, dass die über Jahrzehnte langsam angestiegen sind. Und in den letzten 2,5 Jahren oder wirklich letzten 1,5 Jahren dieser Knick entstanden ist, wo es plötzlich massiv ansteigt. Und ob das nun mit den medizinischen Sondermaßnahmen zusammenhängt, die in den letzten 1,5 Jahren erzwungen wurden, oder ob hier andere Phänomene dahinter stehen, müssen wir uns im Rahmen von dieser Sendung, glaube ich, enthalten. Aber dass es diese Statistik gibt, ist völlig klar, die sogenannte Übersterblichkeit. Und dass die Übersterblichkeit gab es nicht in dem ersten Jahr der Erkrankung, die in den 2 Jahren rumgeistert, den Namen will ich erwähnen wollen, da gab es keine Übersterblichkeit, sondern sogar eine Untersterblichkeit, statistisch gesehen. Ich habe die Statistiken. Und die Übersterblichkeit gibt es erst in den letzten 1,5 Jahren. Und bei mir in der eigenen Praxis sieht es so aus, dass viele Patienten, von denen wir wussten, dass sie von der Genetik und vom Familiensystem her eine Tendenz haben, Krebs zu entwickeln, dass es plötzlich bei denen explodiert. Und dass viele von meinen Krebspatienten, die wir seit 20 Jahren, ich bin seit 48 Jahren in der Medizin tätig, ich habe viele Patienten, die ich noch aus meiner frühen Zeit kenne. Und viele Patienten, die ich betreue, habe ich jetzt in meinem gegenwärtigen Patientengut seit 20 Jahren, wo wir am Anfang Krebs behandelt haben oder mitbehandelt haben und die Patienten als geheilt galten und wo plötzlich nicht unbedingt die gleiche Krebserkrankung, sondern eine andere Krebserkrankung plötzlich explosiv entgleist. Und auch die Krebsarten, die im Moment entstehen, sehr viel aggressiver sind und schneller sind als alles, was wir bisher je beobachtet haben in diesen 48 Jahren. Das gab es nicht, das ist etwas ganz Neues. Und wie gesagt, diese Sondermaßnahmen, bei mir in der Praxis ist es so, dass es Patienten gut, bei denen wir das beobachten, sind eigentlich ausschließlich die Patienten, die den Empfehlungen des Staates gefolgt sind. Und das ist bei mir, mein Patientengut ist in den USA und das ist sicher hier in Deutschland ganz anders.
This is a statement. I am Angus Dalgleish for the Port Hedland Council special meeting. Thank you, Mayor and fellow councillors, for allowing me to address this special meeting. It's a privilege to speak on an issue of profound importance to the health and future of all Australians, an issue that concerns the safety of COVID-19 vaccines administered to millions. As unsettling as the information I will present may be, it is critical that we confront it now to prepare for the potential public health consequences. There is long established science which I feel has been ignored willfully up to now. The concerns raised in the science summary seen in the letter of Mr. Russell Broadbent MP to the Australian Prime Minister, co-authored by me and several eminent international experts, many of whom I know well, are based on well-established science. This is not theoretical or speculative. Decades of research have demonstrated the risks of foreign DNA integrating into human cells, leading to potentially catastrophic outcomes. Synthetic DNA contamination, as detected in Australian vials of the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines by David Spiker, presents risks of a genomic instability which can manifest as cancers, immune disorders, and hereditary diseases. To explain in more straightforward terms, The vaccines contain lipid nanoparticles which encapsulate synthetic DNA fragments. These nanoparticles deliver this DNA into various organs throughout the body, where the DNA has the potential to integrate into our own genetic material. As such, these vaccines are not vaccines. They are, in fact, gene therapy based. This genomic integration, as the scientific literature makes clear, can lead to cancer development, immune system disruption, and more.